Hey guys, welcome back to Team 1D. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about my review of the Omnipod 5 automated insulin pump after using it for 1 year, pretty much since being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And I'm going to be talking about the pros of it, the cons of it after using it for a while, comparing it to some other pumps on the market, and finally giving my review and my final verdict of whether or not I recommend this pump for people who are my age. So first, starting off with what the pump is, in case people don't know it, even though it's the most often prescribed insulin pump currently. So it has a lot of sales, very popular. It's pretty much a tubeless, waterproof insulin pump, one for up to 3 days. It also uses a smart adjust algorithm, and it usually connects to CGM sensor. It doesn't have to, but it's compatible with the Dexcom G7, G6, Libre, and other sensors on the market. And what it does is a unique feature of it is that it automatically adjusts basal insulin delivery every 5 minutes to help keep your glucose in range. But you still have to bolus for meals. You still have to touch. Now you can set targets, view trends, and manage everything from a smartphone or a controller. Pretty much what the algorithm is supposed to do is supposed to predict your glucose levels for up to 60 minutes, and then adjust your insulin based on the information gets from your CGM and your trend from the CGM. And also adjust insulin delivery on a customizable target, which is raised from 110 milligrams per deciliter to 150 milligrams per deciliter. And it automatically increases, decreases, or pauses insulin every 5 minutes based on like your trend, how much, and what your blood sugar is, and your targets kind of based on what you put. So moving on to this information, I'm going to be going on to a con, which I think the Omnipod 5 actually does a pretty weak job of predicting your glucose trends. And sometimes it just completely goes crazy. It gives really inaccurate predictions for what it does. In fact, I think that the prediction isn't even really a prediction. It's just really basic math on what your blood sugar is going to be based on the trend. So it's just literally like a graph of oh, your blood sugar is increasing by a slope of 5 in 30 minutes. It's going to increase by this much based on the slope. So I think it's really, really basic math and doesn't account for anything like even eating food. It doesn't count for your boluses, in my opinion. I don't think when you bolus, it changes oh, this is the IOB because of the bolus. I don't think it's that complicated. I think it's just slope, trend graph, basic math. So I think this is a kind of a con because compared to closed loop algorithms, which actually can predict and actually can be much more customizable, the Omnipod 5 doesn't actually predict. So although it says it predicts, based on research and based on me using it myself, I couldn't actually say that it predicts your blood sugar. And for example, sometimes I have proof of this, as in sometimes my blood sugar is 60 or 70 and it's going down, or 80 going down, right? And then the Omnipod 5 would actually give some insulin. So this is kind of rare cases. This is not to prove that it doesn't really predict, although it doesn't. This is just to prove that the Omnipod 5 algorithm can go kind of haywire and just start giving you insulin and cause lows randomly. But on top of this, the Omnipod 5 algorithm doesn't really predict, in my opinion. So I would say this is kind of a con, as in it can't actually predict your blood sugar and give accurate readings based on that. It just uses a slope graph, which I guess is better than not having automated insulin delivery at all. Now I'm going to be moving on to a pro, which is the automated insulin delivery, because I would say having automated insulin delivery is still, although it doesn't predict really well, better than having manual delivery, because in manual delivery, it's just going to give you a set amount no matter what. So although automated insulin delivery can be oftentimes way off, completely off, and even detrimental, most of the time, over 90% of the time, I think it's still going to be better than manual. Because manual is going to give 0.2 every single 5 minutes. That's still worse for you than the automated mode, which can give you 0 if you have lower blood sugar usually, and let's say 0.4 every time you have high blood sugar per 5 minutes. So it's much better for because usually it gets your insulin dosage more correct than the manual mode. So I would say a pro is that automated mode works better than the manual mode in most pumps. So I think the automated insulin delivery system, or AID system, does work and is something good. And thus, the automated insulin delivery system gives you an improved time range. Especially for me, what I've done is that the automated insulin delivery system, another key weakness of it, so moving on to a con, is that it's really, really bad at correcting highs in general. At preventing lows, I think it's pretty good. It usually prevents lows, except for the couple times I've said where, if my blood sugar is low and it's still giving me insulin and it kind of goes haywire. But besides that, I would say that the Omnipod 5 pump is pretty good at preventing lows. However, for highs, is not good. Like a lot of times trending high, and it's just not. It's barely giving me any insulin. It's not good enough at all. So, however, what I do is I just mainly bolus. Like for example, my blood sugar is high. I know how much insulin I need. It's not giving me enough. I just boom bolus how much I need, and I would see my blood sugar going down. So with this strategy and with the automated insulin delivery system, I was able to get 90 plus time range since I've been using it the past over a year. And oftentimes, especially when I was in like my period of honeymoon, I was able to get 95 plus time in range for months at a time, which is something that is very hard to do, which is injections. Like maybe with just injections, you would get like 80% versus Omnipod 5 is a much better time in range. So I would say a very big pro is that the Omnipod 5 has a much higher time range, especially compared to injections for me. So I would say that it's very, very good for the time and range. Also, the customizable type targets do help, although I think everybody's just going to put it on 110 compared to 150. No one's going to want to aim for 150 blood sugar because 110 is obviously close to normal and it's what you want compared to 150. So, but it's still nice to have some targets and to set your target to 110 versus other things. However, comparing it to other pumps, for example, the Twist pump that's coming this year, that has already just came out, I think, that's going to have a target up to, I think, as low as 85. So having 110 is still, I think, is a little bit outdated, and it's not as good as 85 in my opinion, because 85 is much closer to normal blood sugar. It would probably move your average blood sugar to lower compared to the 110 target gets you. It's also waterproof, which is I think another pro, as it causes you can swim, you can shower, you can kind of just put it on, not worry about taking it off and like forgetting to take it off and all that stuff, and it doesn't get damaged. And I'd say it's pretty durable in terms of the fact that it's waterproof. I've gone diving within the ocean, nothing's really happened. However, it can come off pretty easily, so I would recommend having an adhesive, because the adhesive of the Omnipod 5 is not very great. I think it works for most stuff, it works for daily activities, but if you're doing a lot of sports, and especially if that's in the water, I would highly recommend putting an adhesive for the Omnipod 5. So that's kind of a con there. Also, moving on to more cons, I would say the con is the pod size, because the pod size is pretty large, especially for pods that are coming out like the Twist, the Mobi that have already just come out, like the modern pods, because it is significantly smaller than those pods, significantly larger than those pods. It's kind of bulky, and I don't really mind this. Some people don't mind, but others might feel self-conscious, and it is kind of like pretty like annoying to deal with sometimes because it's pretty bulky. Also, another con would be, in my opinion, pod failures, because this does happen kind of often. Not like a lot of times, but it does happen more than I think it should. Sometimes there's just random pod failures or back-to-back pod failures that happen, which is kind of annoying, because sometimes like I'm in the middle of class and my pod just goes beep, and the pod failure, when it fails, it's super, super loud. So that's kind of annoying. And you can't turn off that alarm unless you deactivate your pod, which takes a while. So yeah, it's kind of an annoying thing to deal with, and I wish there was less pod failures with the Omnipod 5. Another thing is the 3-day change requirement, which is kind of a standard right now, but I think Medtronic is making the Tandem Mobi able to go to 7 days. So I think that would be a major, like, big deal. It would cause the gap between the Mobi and the Omnipod to actually be established, and the Mobi to actually be a better, more viable option than the Omnipod 5, because the Omnipod 5 is only 3 days until you have to change it, while 7 days would be pretty like insane. So I think that's kind of a con as well. Another con I would say is that the third day, I would say, of the Omnipod 5 works much worse compared to the first and second days. First and second days usually works fine, but the third day especially. I don't know if this is like this for two pump. I think that the third day for the two pump is a little bit better compared to two pump like the Omnipod 5, but especially for the Omnipod 5, the third day is very bad, and oftentimes in the third day, I'm just having to change it and replace it with another pump, because it just is really bad, like for my insulin absorption, and I see my blood sugar going up a lot compared to the first and second days. So sometimes I just have to change it every 2 days instead of every 3. It's not that big of a deal, but I think changing it every 2 days can be a hassle and can be pretty annoying. So I do put this as a con as well. So yeah, those are all the pros and cons. Overall, I would say that Omnipod 5 is amazing for the casual person, which is why it's been so popular. And I think if you want to do more work, manage your blood sugar better, like I've done, you can get by with Omnipod 5 if you just manually bolus, if you look at your blood sugar often, if you make sure that your blood sugar is in range, and then if it's not, you can just edit yourself, bolus yourself as food, but then you just put insulin. I think overall, although the automated insulin delivery system and the fact that the adhesives are not that good, and the fact that you have to change it every 3 days and it's pretty bulky, are some pretty big cons. I think the ease of use and the improved time and range, if you put some effort as well, cause it to be a pretty viable option. But I would say it's also worth looking at some other pumps, especially with the Tandem OB coming up soon. I would recommend this, especially for teens who do want some ease of use, do want something that is not tube pumps, as it's more discreet, easier to use, and so thus I would recommend this for people, especially people my age currently, to use compared to other pumps on the market right now. However, I think in the future this could change. So yeah, thanks for watching my video, and see ya.